damaged the United States economic plan, and it shut down workers until further notice. And you've got workers asking the question, how are we going to pay? What's going to happen with regards to our economic status? And our next guest has released a 15-part Corona response plan just specifically for that. Joining us now is Assemblymember Michael Blake from Assembly District 79. And Assemblyman Blake, good to have you.
Daren, always good to be with you, brother. Hopefully you all are keeping safe upstate right now.
Yeah, we're keeping safe, and we're able to actually bring you the news and do it from virtual. So nothing has changed, but certainly a lot of people are being affected. Not as much as New York City, of course, and you've got boots on the ground in New York City. So talk to us about where we are right now as far as with your area.
Well, first we want to make sure everybody stays as safe as possible. And be mindful of all that's going on across the city, across the community, across the country. And we have to show love to the first responders, to the health professionals who are out on the front lines. Look, this is scary, concerning times for a lot of people. Is very different. Today being the first day of remote learning. So you have a lot of family members that are staying home with their children. Obviously, they can't send them to school. You have this being the first full day of the non-essential workforce curfew of saying that unless you are essential service, you should not be out on the street. We'll be back out to go check on people because we're doing food distribution and also just making sure everybody is okay. But this is real. And what I've been saying a lot is that there obviously is a coronavirus pandemic, but there was a pandemic of poverty before this came. And so what we are seeing is the need for people to have food. The need for small businesses that need immediate economic relief, workers that are trying to figure out how they're going to pay their bills, because yes, you could suspend bills for down the line, but you still have to pay them at some point anyway. And so we're seeing it. And then, we've been able to collaborate with great groups. World Central Kitchen has been a blessing to us. We've surpassed now 50,000 meals with them, and which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then, we rolled out this economic plan because at the end of the day, we can't just focus on today. We have to help someone for today and tomorrow. And that's the reason the plan was very bold in terms of relief to businesses, relief to individuals, focusing on grants for nonprofits and finding ways to provide economic relief to everybody.
So when we talk about the plan, talk about a little bit for, businesses. How would businesses be affected through your plan?
Well, look, I think the first thing, what we're seeing with a lot of businesses is that, many people were on the margins, especially the restaurants. Daren, as out here in the Bronx, especially in the South Bronx, if you're by Yankee Stadium, if you're by Bruckner Boulevard, if you're by anywhere by 161st Street, we have a lot of small businesses. And what we have to be doing is being helpful to them and getting them economic relief, which they didn't have otherwise. And so a large part of our plan was saying, number one, what do we need to be doing immediately to collaborate with people like Michael Brady at the 3rd Avenue Business Improvement District, with our Dream Yard and so many others. Shout out to the team at Bistro and Bricks and Hops and Bronx Draft House, able to collaborate with them as well, to say we need to get grants as fast as possible to small businesses, small minority women-owned businesses, as well as making sure there's real relief on the back end, because you can't just say I want to get you a loan. If you don't have revenue, it doesn't matter, because they're still afraid. And so we're preparing for a pretty significant announcement, what we're going to be doing with an entity that we've been doing work with over the years, the Bronx Community Foundation, to really demonstrate how we can provide relief immediately to people who need that relief. We did a initial collaboration last week. Andrew Yang's effort, Humanity Forward, was able to collaborate with the Collective Education Fund to provide some direct basic income through the neighborhood trust in the Bronx to be able to help families as well. And so, I'm being very clear about this focus. At the end of the day, yes, people need to be staying at home. Yes, people need to be safe. But people still are thinking about their everyday lives. And they're trying to figure out how are they going to pay their bills when that time emerges. And so our focus has been very heavily on that in terms of what's the next iteration around that. I put forth a proposal that I submitted to Governor Cuomo, to Speaker Hasty, to Mayor de Blasio, around some other concrete things we need to be thinking about that I'm asking for their consideration. For example, right now the city is only providing grants for businesses less than 5 employees. But that's not really going to be applicable to a lot of our businesses, especially if you're in the restaurant business. And so it's those kinds of things that we are very mindful of, we're thinking about, that we want people to understand that we're fighting for you and working for you to get you that help you need.
Well, and talk to us a little bit about, you talked about the governor, you talked about the mayor. The governor being out front just about every day, we can count on hearing a press briefing coming from the governor, knowing what the status is, him being very direct in some matters, and also at the same time being so much down to earth, which is kind of ease the calm. But talk a little bit about the governor's leadership, because it seems as though not only is he taking statewide leadership, a lot of people are taking the cues from the governor from a national perspective.
Well, look, we have to commend what Governor Cuomo has been doing in demonstrating a very clear response on how to act and how to lead, and being very direct, lovingly direct, to show people what's happening. He's been very linear in the conversations. Yes, the number of confirmed cases are going to go up because we have more testing than other places are. But yes, 80% of people will be fine. However, we have to increase hospital capacity. We have to increase bed capacity. We have to find more ways to help individuals. And the federal government and Trump and the Republicans have been, to say pathetic is an understatement, right? In how slow they've been moving. Now, why did they not move faster? Have they not moved faster on mass testing? Why is it taking so long to get funds agreed upon to get down to the ground? Why are they not putting more pressure on the Senate Republicans to say very clearly that it should be bailing out workers and people, not corporations? And so when you have that happening, you need governors and leadership on the ground to provide that response. And he has been very responsible, very clear, very engaged. And we've been able to collaborate with him as well as Mayor de Blasio pretty regularly and their teams. But now the reality, Darren, the people on the block, they could press briefing, but they want to know, what are you doing on the ground? Right. And the amount of people that I have interacted with from a distance, don't worry, keeping our social distancing, right? Doing a lot of elbows going on right now. Right. All right. Whether it be at Bronx River Houses, whether it be collaborating with Danny Barber over at Andrew Jackson, whether it be the senior centers, Glebe residential complex where the supermarket had closed and they didn't know how they were going to get food over there, whether it be the Point. There are so many people that have been saying thank you. We didn't know what meal we were going to get. We were afraid to go outside, look, we just wanted some help. And so I'm combining the two to say it matters who are in elected offices. It matters who's in these positions because it's not just policy from the top, but it's the pragmatic on the ground.
Right. And also give me a little bit of this perspective from the Democratic Party, right? Because you are vice president for the DNC as well. We know the debates were going on. Things seem to be moving full speed for former Vice President Joe Biden. How does this affect the momentum, if you will, of Joe Biden? How does this affect the momentum of the Democratic Party, given the fact where it seems as though things seem to be on a roll until Corona came around?
Well, I think the way we're doing this interview is an indication of how things have changed forever for everybody, right? Because, for Vice President Biden, for Senator Sanders, and all of us, you can't do large rallies. You can't have those in-person gatherings in the same way. And so you have virtual fundraisers, virtual conversations, town halls, et cetera, which, it's changed things. The debate, the last one was supposed to be in Arizona with an audience. It was brought back to DC to be in the studio. Those are the things that we have to be mindful of. And so you still have to campaign. You still have to be out there. You still got to organize, but you got to be responsible, to be mindful. The most important thing people want to know is, what do you do to help me in the face of coronavirus? I always say this: good policy leads to good politics. So if you do the right things, then you hope people will take care of you and remember that. So on the national level, of course, we have other states that are coming up. Here in New York, we're still scheduled for April 28th. There is legislation to consider. It's not finalized in any way. Do we do a vote by mail, an absentee vote program, so that you don't have people gathering, which makes sense. I have a bill that has been looking at online voter registration that's been out there for about a year. And I think we're going to obviously push for that even more. I think it makes a lot of sense given what's happening right now. But it has changed everything dramatically. Daren, I did a virtual campaign update, my second one on this past Sunday, in which I tell people, go to blakeforcongress.nyc. When they go there, the top of it has information about COVID-19, lays out the ways we're providing immediate help. Specifically, if your child is at a school, you're doing remote learning, of course, now you're trying to figure out grab and go lunch. Well, if you're a child of a first responder, you can go to a regional enrichment center. So people had that question and they were wondering the difference between the two, or conversations around rent and evictions, and making sure you have that protection. I mention that as an example because that's the same thing we're seeing on the national level, because now there's that mobilization of utilizing our platforms to educate the masses, and to communicate to everyone. Now, the simultaneous piece of this now is also how do we change things moving forward? So in collaboration with an entity called Higher Ground Labs, which has done phenomenal work in demonstrating how you can still be engaged virtually and digitally to get your message out. All of us have been working on this through Zoom. A lot of video conference calls and virtual conference calls have been happening. You're going to see probably more targeted mail. You'll probably see more teletown halls. We'll have efforts so that people can make phone calls while you're home, because if you're sitting around, you can make some phone calls for all of us right now. And that's going to be happening for everybody. The reality is at some point, there will be elections that will be happening for your respective city and state, and we want to remind people before April 28th for the presidential primary, and then June 23rd for the congressional, Senate, and state primary here in New York, we have the census as well. And so how do we utilize our platforms to be able to push out more information? Lastly, I've been on Instagram and Twitter a lot, utilizing that as a way to get information out. So when we post what's going on at WC Kitchen, so people can learn about World Central Kitchen. We post Chef Jose Andres. We post about Robert Smith. But then we make sure that when you go into the bio and you go into the link, you can then see information that will be helpful to you as well. And so this is that moment where people are very real and practical, that if you're not helping them, they don't care about your election down the line. Right. And that's the changes that are happening on the national level. There is no change as of yet for the convention. People have been asking us a lot in Milwaukee. But of course, for anything we're all doing, there will have to be social distancing and have to be more creative ways to be smart about protecting people moving forward.
Yeah. Before we leave, and I got a few seconds left, just give people briefly where they can find if they need food or services in your area. We want to make sure the Bronxites are connected.
WCK.org/news/the Bronx. Again, WCK.org/news/the Bronx. That will show you the different locations we have where you can get some food, you can get some support. I would encourage everybody, 2 different websites. If you go and find me on my New York Assembly website, nyassembly.gov, and then look for members, Michael Blake, or blakeforcongress.nyc, will get you that information there so that you can find out how to get not just food, job help, housing help, healthcare, etc. Lastly, follow us on social media, because of course we're all on our phones constantly getting out updates. So Mr. Mike Blake is my Twitter handle, Mr. Mike Blake. Instagram is Mike Blake 1922. We're constantly putting information out on both platforms. And last but not least, if you want immediate updates from the city, text the word COVID, COVID, to 692-692. Text COVID to 692-692, or text Blake to 66539. Text Blake to 66539. We're getting out information to people in real time about what's going on, so we can make sure you're informed. We're going to overcome this. That's why we got our mask.
Right.
We'll be all ready to rock to give back to the people of the Bronx. We've endured a lot before, but we've overcame it before. And we're going to do it again.
Assemblymember Michael Blake from the 79th Assembly District. Thank you so much for sharing with us here on Open as we continue to bring the Bronx more information as to what is going on, the resources available. Thank you very much, Assemblymember Blake.
Good to talk to you, brother.
All righty. And we want you to stay connected to us here on Open. We've got more show coming up right after this. Don't go anywhere. We'll come right back in a few.